everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. We are very excited to have Ashley Robinson here from the Cardigan Marketing talking about personal branding, why it's important as you build your legal career. We also have one of our 2017 grads, Travis Juneau, here. He is a local practitioner who also works with Ashley. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll leave it with you.
Thank you. Hello, nice to meet you guys. Like Megan said, I'm Ashley. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I spend my days working with lawyers, so this is nice to be on the front end side with some potential lawyers. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I'll tell you a little bit about me and what we do. We work with lawyers on their marketing. I'm a marketing agency, and our only clientele is legal industry. So Travis is an ideal example. We work with clients' websites, social media, SEO, which is just a fancy word for your Google ranking, social media, video marketing, email marketing. So that's a little bit about us. Before I get started, and Travis is going to talk later, I definitely want you guys interested to hear what Travis has to say. Before I get started, I want to hear from a few of you. I'd like to know kind of who's in the room. So if you're first year, raise your hand first. Okay, second, and then third. Cool. So, anybody, tell me, do you know what area of law you want to practice? Anybody know, have a specific? Do you have an idea?
Antitrust.
Say it again?
Antitrust.
Okay. Anybody else?
Civil rights and immigration.
Civil rights, where at? Locally, geographic, you know?
Hopefully Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One more, let's get somebody else.
Healthcare.
Healthcare, okay. Do you know where you want to practice?
So I'm going to meet with two firms.
Okay.
This summer, so hopefully one.
Cool. One of them gets you, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
The one gives me the offer.
That's right. Who puts the most money on the table?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk today, like Megan said, about some personal branding, why that's important as a lawyer. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as your main focus now is graduating law school, passing the bar, right? But I do want to leave you with some specifics that can help you as you go into your career, whether you are Travis and you have your own firm, or you're working with a big firm. I know there's different options, but personal branding is important in any side of what you do. You are going to be in the service industry. I'm in the service industry. I provide a service. So my knowledge in marketing, what I went to school for, what I spent so much time, not as much time as you all, but what I went to school for, that is important, but how I brand myself is equally as important, something that you're not necessarily taught as a lawyer, but in the service industry it is important. So let's get into it. I want to talk about the difference real quick between branding and marketing, because these two get mixed up often, so we're all on the same page. So branding is understanding you as a person. You are a brand. As a lawyer, as someone in the service industry, you are a brand. Marketing is all of us, me, understanding my clients, Travis, all of you. How do I advertise to you about what I do, my service? How do you, as a lawyer, advertise to your clientele what you do? So those are the difference. And it's important to remember that you are a brand. You are your own brand. You are representing, you're a big firm or you're a solo practitioner, you are your own brand. So I want to talk about what is personal branding, why is it important, and then I want Travis and I to spend the majority of our time on how can we help you, give you some tips and tricks on how to build your personal brand. So what is personal branding? Personal branding is not what you are telling others your personal brand is. Have you ever heard the phrase, your reputation precedes you? That's personal branding, right? It's your reputation. I can tell you all day long that I do not have a southern accent. You hear me talk and you can say, she has a southern accent. She's from Alabama. I can tell you all day long what I want you to hear, but my actions, the way I speak, the way I carry myself, that is my brand. That is my image. I can tell my clientele all day long, I do this or I do not do this. But the way I carry myself and the way I present my business, so that's my personal brand. So it's your reputation. Remember that. Your personal brand very much is your reputation. Your reputation is being built now. as a first year, as a second year. These things matter. What you do matters. Now, 10 years from now, when you're in Travis's shoes, what you're doing now matters. What is personal branding? Personal branding is how you make people feel. As a lawyer, how do you make them feel? When they leave a consultation with you, do you make them feel understood? Do you make them feel seen? Is anyone here going into family law? No? Travis said good choice. Those were Travis's words. So no matter I was just curious, that's definitely a type of law. I have a family law attorney in Atlanta. This is a conversation she and I recently had. I was telling her I was coming here, and she was like, man, I knew law. I studied law. I never understood that I had to be a therapist, and I had to make people feel seen and understood. So your personal brand is how you make people feel. Do you make them feel like you're knowledgeable, that you understand what you're talking about, that you have the experience? How do you make them feel when you leave the conversation with them? And then lastly, personal branding is it tells a story. It paints a picture. So that's what personal branding is. Let's talk about why it's important. Well, it's important because this is how you make money, right? Personal branding may be the only thing that a potential judge knows about you. Before, Travis and I were just having this conversation recently, and I think he's going to go into this later, of once you start your own firm, you need some appointed cases. You just need something to keep the lights on, right? Judges need to like you. They need to know, are you trustworthy? Do you know what you're talking about? That's that personal brand. They're not necessarily calling your professors. How do they do in school? What story have they been told? Have they heard? Have they read? That's your personal brand. So let's talk about, now that we're all on the same page of branding versus marketing. What is it? Why it's important. So let's talk about how I can help you, give you a few tips and tricks on how to build your personal brand. So first, let's talk about finding your focus. So a few of you mentioned, and a lot of you nodded your head, you know what areas of law you're going to practice. I think most of you were kind of nodding along. So the best personal brands are very, very specific. Find a niche and then get even more concentrated than that. What is your focus? Are you passionate about arguing, picking a juror? What is the one thing that sets you apart? I would imagine many of you can begin to determine that now, even as first year, second year, third year. What sets you apart? What makes you different? Are you very funny? Maybe it's your personality. If you're a personal injury lawyer, that might be the thing for you. Well, what is it? What is that one thing that sets you apart? Find that focus. Maybe it's a specific area in your practice area that sets you apart. The more concentrated you can get, the better you will become, because it's going to be easier for folks to recognize you. It's going to be easier if a potential client or a potential boss at a law school, they're looking to hire you. What makes you different? What makes you stand out amongst all of your fellow classmates here? What is the one area that you have studied and you've become a professional at, and you know, and you've spent time learning that very specific niche? Find that area. So I want to talk to you about, I want to show you a few examples of where that looks like. This is a client of mine, Sean Kent. These pictures do not do it justice, so just believe me. Sean is in Manning, South Carolina. He's a criminal defense lawyer. He has recently hired an associate to start handling the personal injury side of things. But Sean is in a smaller city in Manning, South Carolina. Sean's focus, his one thing, is he is bizarre, bombastic, funny, loud. He demands your attention. So Sean's focus isn't necessarily a specific skill set. He's incredible at what he does. He teaches in higher education in Charleston, South Carolina. He's a brilliant man, but he understood, I'm in Manning, South Carolina. I'm in a tiny town. I'm not necessarily needing to, hey, if you need if you're looking to fight some type of white-collar crime, I'm your guy. He didn't need to be that specific in terms of a practice area and where he's from. He has the most excellent customer service experience when you go to his firm. You're always getting a thank you card. His staff is trained to have excellent customer service. So Sean, what sets Sean apart is Sean. If you look at his social media accounts, which we manage, they're just bizarre. He says bizarre off the wall things. But that works for Sean. Everyone else in his area, and that was the first conversation I had with him, was everyone in my area they're in the box. Their websites are yellow and blue, and they all do criminal personal injury. I do criminal personal injury, but my firm is different. We send, if a former client's gotten married or they have a death in their family, we're sending them flowers. They're hosting things in the community. So that's what sets Sean apart. We redid Sean's website and made it different. It doesn't look like a normal firm's website. For example, the pinstripes on Sean's suit, if you get very close to them, they say Sean Kim. He's just, right? It works though. Look, that's not for me. It works for Sean. And he kills it in his tiny little town. He knows exactly what we need in that area. So I'm going to give you another example. This is my brother-in-law, David Windicher. This is how I got into doing what I'm doing. So finding a focus, I was in marketing, and I wanted to own my own business. I developed a niche. I'm in a very specific area, right? When I talk to people, oftentimes, what do you do? Marketing for lawyers. Well, that's specific. Right, that's the point. I want to be known as the person who is excellent at one thing. That's what we're talking about. So my brother-in-law David grew up I live in Fort Lauderdale now, South Florida. My brother-in-law grew up in that area, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Really poverty-stricken neighborhood, family. He has 13 felony arrests, grew up in a gang, just rough. Changes his life, turns his life around, comes to Atlanta, goes to law school. So now, my brother-in-law's primary focus is recidivism. He has a nonprofit. He focuses on recidivism. You can tell he doesn't look like the normal lawyer. You can't really see this. He's got a huge red beard, covered in tattoos from head to toe, and he plays on that image. He is passionate about helping underprivileged. He has a passion. Sean, bombastic, loud, sense of humor. David, my brother-in-law, it's different, right? But everyone in his sphere of influence knows if you need anything related to David's an activist, he's written a book. If you have any kind of case or you need any advice on these very small areas, go to David. Now, David still makes an excellent living off of referrals. Just because you're going to have a specific niche in your practice area, or if you have your own firm, you go to a big firm, just even though you have a specific niche doesn't mean people are not going to come to you. It's amazing. David and I talk about this all the time. It's amazing how many people call him personal injury, family. He's just known as a trusted source in his community, so they still come to him, and he still makes a great living off of handing off clients to his referral base. So that's another great example of finding a niche. And then one last one. This is another client. We've actually just gotten this client. His name is Shane Hinch, and he is in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So Shane, the first conversation Shane and I had, man, this guy is brilliant. He's criminal defense. Brilliant guy. His website, everything online is just boring. No offense, but yellow, blue, this is his current website. We're in the process of redoing his website. And when I first spoke to Shane, he kept telling me about this chess over checkers analogy. I was like, that's interesting. Let's play on that. So again, you can't see this. We're redoing his website. Now when you go on his website, there's a pan and it's moving a chess piece. And so his whole brand, I'm playing chess while other lawyers are playing checkers. So you see something that makes him stand out. And so we're doing a whole video series on how he's strategic and how he thinks through. And other lawyers may be thinking that way, but they're not advertising that. They're not putting that out there. Are you putting it out there of what is your unique, what is your strategy? Shane's strategy is, look, I'm playing chess. Other lawyers are playing checkers. I'm strategic. I think through things differently. I have a private investigator full-time on my staff. So this is his niche. You see what I'm saying? He has this focus where other lawyers may be practicing that way, but they're not putting it out there. They're not advertising. So those are a few examples of finding your focus. Travis is here today. Travis is a veteran. We started working with Travis maybe more than 6 months ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
So if you start looking online at Travis's online, what does it say about Travis online? Because again, remember, your reputation precedes you. Most people, not anyone, many people who are going to hire Travis, before they meet Travis and hear Travis's voice and talk to him, they've read something online, they've read a review, they've gone to a social media page. So Travis, when he speaks, and how he practices law, very much his past life of serving comes through. So what are we trying to do as marketing? We're trying to showcase that. That's something that sets Travis apart. That is something that's different for Travis. So that is part of Travis's focus that we are trying to showcase to his clientele. Look, this is why I'm different. This is what sets me apart. So I want Travis now to talk about networking and how networking is a long play. In networking, you are playing for your future. You are investing into your future. So I want Travis to talk a little bit about that and how that ties into your personal branding.
Just kind of looking back at what Ashley was talking about, becoming an expert in one subject matter, one very tiny specific piece of knowledge, and being the guy, the lady, the go-to person for that, whether it's in your firm, whether it's just in the community, is absolutely where you start. Like that should be kind of your end goal for your network, is being the go-to person. You know, you're not going to be nationwide. Chances are you're not going to be the DUI guy for the entire country, right? But like you could be the search and seizure guy for Tuscaloosa County, right? You could be the, I don't know, tell me something about securities law.
Well, I'm going to antitrust is my interest, but I guess companies over-promising and under-delivering, especially in IPOs.
Okay. So you could essentially, I'm assuming if you're going into IPOs, you're going to be probably Wall Street white shoe firm, right? Because that's who gets the majority of the IPOs. So you could be like a very specific portion of whatever goes into an IPO, right? I'm a criminal defense lawyer by trade, do a little bit of family stuff, which is why I'm trying to convince everybody not to do that. But that will spread your network and your name and your trustworthiness farther and wider than you could ever imagine, right? So in Alabama, all criminal defense lawyers, if you choose to, you can join the Alabama Criminal Defense Lawyers Association and become part of the listserv. And if you like getting emails that aren't for you, please join. You get somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 emails a week, and it's literally just people yelling into the void that they have a problem, right? This happened, and I don't know how to deal with it. At the end of the day, you may have a law degree and you may have passed the bar, but you're problem solvers. You solve other people's problems. They come to you with their issues, and you find a way to fix them. And you can do that for other lawyers too, and honestly, you can do that for judges too if you're on the right side of things. But being on the listserv, one, you get really good insight into the trouble other people are having and how that gets solved, and two, questions pop up in your area of interest, right? So being a criminal defense lawyer, obviously I didn't know every step of the process. I don't have the luxury of focusing and drilling down and really only doing what I would do if I could, which is Fourth and Fifth Amendment law, a little bit of civics when we're dealing with search, seizure, and suppression. If I could do that all day, every day, I'd be a very happy human being. But you know, I don't have that luxury. But if there's a search and seizure question that pops up on the listserv, guess what? 15,000 other lawyers in the state of Alabama just got to watch me be brilliant, right? So that's part of it. Don't forget that what you're doing now with your classmates will be a vital part of your branding going forward. So don't break rule number one. And if anybody knows what rule number one is, it's don't be a dick, right? Don't be a jerk. Don't be mean to people just for the sake of being mean to people. It doesn't make you cooler. It makes them not give you cases later. And your classmates will spread far and wide across the country, and then they'll go on Facebook and they'll say, hey, I got a client in Huntsville, Alabama that has a family law matter that needs a referral. Anybody do that? And they can or cannot give them your name, right? That just happened with one of my classmates the other day. She's got a client that's got a family law problem up in Huntsville. He got in trouble in Tuscaloosa, and so we're here to help, right? Like, your network extends well beyond the people you call friends. But making sure that they believe and understand that you are a person of honor and integrity and that you know what you're talking about will pay massive dividends down the road. Especially like if you're at a firm, the easiest way in today's market to get paid more money in law is to change firms, to be honest with you, to get poached, to get hired out. And the way you do that is by becoming the go-to person for your niche in your firm. Then you end up at meetings with other firms, or you end up in trial against another firm, right? A couple years ago, like right after I got out of law school, Alexander Shannara decided he was going to become a trial lawyer all of a sudden and hired a huge number of very, very good trial lawyers that were all winners at defense firms. And he paid them a ton of money, and he said, come work for me. Before that, he was a settlement factory, right? So if you can get your name out there as somebody that can be trusted, the work will come. Actually kind of touched on this. So I was at the DA's office for just shy of 3 years. And in that 3 years, I specifically worked in one judge's courtroom, but obviously being in the courthouse all the time, you get to know all the judges very, very well. My reputation allowed me to keep my doors open for that first 6-8 months that I was out on my own, right? I was paying out of my own pocket. That's all coming out of my savings and stuff, right? But the judges know that you're young and you don't have clients. So instead of giving you Class A felonies that may at the end pay bigger money, they give you a bunch of misdemeanors that you can flip real quick, while appointing you to larger felonies that you can work long term, right? So, and you probably don't understand this. The way you bill the state of Alabama is when a case is closed, you have 90 days to submit your bill. So you don't get paid until that case is closed, and then you don't get paid 60 days until, roughly 60 days after you submit it. So it matters that how long the case takes, right? Class A felony might take 2 years before it is adjudicated and there's a closing on it. If you just started a shop, that money looks great, but that money's 2 years down the road. It does no good to keep your lights on right now, right? But a DUI that's diversion ready, that's 2 court appearances tops, right? A drug possession, you can get that done in 2, maybe 3 if we're being difficult, right? So you can get those cases flipped. And the judges appoint those cases to the people that they trust will handle them appropriately and that honestly they that they like, right? And they'll try to rotate it and try not to play favorites, but everybody, even if you try to push bias out of your head, you're never going to be able to accomplish that. So just kind of be cognizant of it. The other thing is, anybody that practices trial law, anybody that becomes a trial lawyer, you have your courtrooms and your boardrooms, anybody that's in a courtroom will at some point in their career stand up in front of a judge and tell him, look judge, this is the way it is. Or my client's late because of this, right? And if you have already burned that bridge with that judge and he already knows you to be an untrustworthy person or somebody that's going to just say whatever to get out of trouble, you're doing your client a disservice, you're doing your profession a disservice, to be honest with you. And honestly, it happened to me this morning. The client's supposed to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, blowing up her phone, where you at? Where you been? Where you at? Oh, I thought it was at 1:30. Okay, that puts me in a tough spot, right? But I have the ability, based on who I am as a human being, to walk in there and be like, Judge, she said she checked on it and somebody at the courthouse told her it's at 1:30. So instead of her getting a writ issued and going to jail, I said, all right, make sure she's here at 1:30 and we'll deal with it then. Okay? The other day, client comes to court. Oh, guess what? Drug test. Well, you're positive, so right. If you like arguing as to why drug tests could be positive, other than people actually doing drugs, feel free to call me. We can talk for a little while all day. But you need to be able to have that relationship with the decision makers to, one, mitigate the damage that person is doing to themselves, maybe get them the help they need, and also preserve the case to go forward, right? Because that kid's life shouldn't hinge on whether or not he popped on one drug test. That's crazy. It might though, right? It might. Yeah, I will say the most important thing anybody will ever teach you ever is that lawyers are never unemployed. If you have a license to practice law, you're never unemployed. You may not have any clients, but you're not unemployed. It's far too easy to set up an LLC if you want to, and you don't technically have to, although I would advise against that. But the reason that's the most important thing is because you are never beholden to anybody. If your job, let's say, if your firm is moving in a direction that makes you uneasy because it's probably unethical, you're welcome to leave, and you can set up your own shop next door and do exactly what they used to do, but the right way, right? If you ever are just feeling squashed, or you just want a little more free time, or you want to be able to manage your own schedule, guess what? Your license to practice law, depending on your state or where you're licensed, you can practice within the bounds of that. You want to go back to Texas and practice immigration law, you'll be extraordinarily busy. But you can do that for yourself, you can do that for a firm. Realistically, you should probably go under somebody that has some experience doing that, learn everything they can teach you, and then use that to make more money, right? Yeah. So go out there and solve the world's problems. But also remember that because you're never unemployed, you as a human being are your end product, right? You're not making widgets, you're not producing coffee or chocolate or anything that can be sold. Right? You are the brand, right? And that's kind of what we're here to talk to you about. Is honestly that started weeks, months, years ago with you building up who you are as a human being. But you really need to realize, like, don't let it get out ahead of you, and certainly be the type of person that the bar thinks you are based on your character and fitness. Right? Be a good person. And don't ever talk crap about people behind their back. It reflects very, very poorly on you. And if you want to, give you a little mind hack, right? If you want to be good at networking, one of the things you can do is compliment other people in ways that you want them to think about you, because they will associate those good things with you. I don't understand how it works. I'm not a psychologist. I just know that it does. All right? So if somebody brings somebody up in conversation, oh yeah, John's brilliant. He's absolutely good. You should see him. He's the best. I love John to death. Now they may hate his guts, and we might not have to take that strong of a position. You may be able to hedge a little bit, but don't say bad things. They'll be like, oh yeah, John's the worst. He's so lazy. Because then they'll be like, well, in the back of their mind, they'll start associating that stuff. So you can do that on a personal level when you're out grabbing drinks and shaking hands and being all fancy like they are on TV. That's my 2 cents. I'll be here for questions if y'all want to chat.
Thank you. Travis, how long have you had your firm?
2 years. 2 years, yeah, 2 years as of March 2nd.
So you can see how, the importance of keeping the lights on, right, has gone back to what is Travis's personal brand, his networking, what do others think of him, are they sending him clients, and that has kept his lights on. And now, my job is to bring in some organic cases, right? But now we've created multiple funnels for Travis, as he has his organic, people who are just straight up searching for Travis and they're finding him. He has his networking, he has his referrals. So you can see, as a solo practitioner especially, creating as many funnels of revenue, how important that is. And if the funnel of networking or your personal brand or your reputation is roadblock, I will never be able to generate as many leads for a client as their personal brand will. First conversation I'm having with them is, that's unless you're Morgan and you've got millions of dollars to throw at marketing, right? But most of us will never be that lawyer. Unless we want to be that lawyer. Difficult. So unless you have that budget, your organic, true people just know who you are, that's going to be your greatest referral source. So one last point I want to talk about. So we've talked about finding your focus, networking, and then online. How to build your personal brand. You're building it online. You're building it now online. You're building it with what you're posting. What you're posting matters. I know I'm not the first person who's told you that, no. But it matters. It really matters. I know I look like I'm 17, but I'm not. I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm hiring people for my business. What do? I stalk them. What have you posted? I'm hiring kids right out of college. No offense, not children, but right out of college. And I'm looking at what they're doing, and if they were idiots and they were posting ridiculous things, even if they're freshman year, that is huge for me. That is huge. That tells me what I need to know about them. And it might have been when you were 18 or 19 and now you're 23. That's hard for me to get past as an employer. That is really hard for me to get past as an employer because I know that the people I hire, they are representing my business. I just read this recently that the average employee has 10 times more followers than their employer. So you are going to have 10 times more followers than the big firm you go work at or wherever you end up. Same for me. They're going to have 10 times more followers than Green Cardigan Marketing. And so they represent me. That's why I'm looking at what they're posting, because if they reshare something we're doing, how does that look for me? My brand is customer service. You may find better marketing somewhere. You will never find the customer service that you get with us. If an employee posts something that's contradicting to that, that takes away all the time and energy and late nights that I work and put towards my business. It's the same for you. Don't let something you posted now destroy you in 2 or 3 years. That firm that you've been wanting, they go back and look and you screwed something up because you posted something controversial. So be cautious of that. So that's the warning. Now to the good side of it. How can you use social media? How can you use online to build your brand? As a solo firm, that's a whole other conversation we can get into, right? Of having a website and what's your online presence. We're not having that conversation today. So let's talk about just the social media aspect of it. And even more specific, just for the sake of time, let's talk about just a LinkedIn. Do you all, any of you have a LinkedIn? Are you active on LinkedIn? Great. I wasn't that active when I was in college, and I see now that I probably should have been a little bit more active. It is important. It is important. It is a great place to be seen for a future employer. It's a great place to generate leads if you are your own firm, depending upon your practice area. It's a great place. So LinkedIn has 1 million users, less than 0.2 publish an article, 2% publish an article each year. So we're seeing this phenomenon on, we'll talk about 2 different platforms right now. So TikTok, I know, anybody have heard of it? TikTok, LinkedIn. They're the 2 platforms that is the easiest to be seen currently where we stand today. Because all of our moms are on Facebook, and all of us are on Instagram, right? So there's a lot of users, and there's a lot of people posting content on Facebook and Instagram. Whereas LinkedIn, TikTok, there's a lot of users. We're all on there as creepers. None of us have a real profile that we're posting. We just are watching videos. Not a lot of people are posting content. It's the same for LinkedIn. A lot of us have profiles. Not a lot of us are posting content. So it's a lot easier to be seen on those 2 mediums. Let's just talk about LinkedIn. So it's easier for you to be seen. So you're 3rd year. What are you posting on LinkedIn for that future employer to go and stalk and see what you've been posting? Start posting about that focus that we talked about. What is your focus? Start sharing articles with a 2 or 3 non-controversial sentences to go along with the post. Just something to, again, you're building that brand. By no means is your online presence the most important in your personal brand, but it plays a part. It's the reason why it's the 3rd. It's not the most important, but it does play a part. So if I can encourage you to do anything, it would be that. What is your focus? And start sharing that on LinkedIn. So now you can see that future employer is going and there's, okay, they came for their interview. They say they're the expert on search and seizure. On LinkedIn, they're sharing all these articles and commentary on search and seizure. Okay, that's just added validity. Now you, compared to the other person that they're considering hiring, a little more weight has been given in your favor, right? So that's all we're trying to do. A little more weight in your favor. If it's try to be hired for that firm, or when you open up your own firm for that clientele, why should they hire you? There's a lot of attorneys to choose from. This is an oversaturated market. There's a lot of attorneys to choose from. What makes you different? What makes you different from that person who wants to hire you, or from that boss who wants to hire you, or that firm who wants to hire you? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? I want to give, this is my last example. So you can't really see this picture that well, but this is a firm we work with in Atlanta, Georgia, an all-female firm, intellectual property firm, Vivid IP. And Vivid IP, again, you can't see it that well, but they are 5 very powerful women. Their brand, they're just different. From the way they look, their website, the way they carry themselves, they're just different. And Marcy, the main lady there in the middle, when you speak to her, she's so passionate about, I worked for a big firm, an intellectual property firm, and it was so strange to me that these intellectual property firms didn't care too much about their brand. This is what we do, after all, in intellectual property, right? We're dealing with businesses. We're helping you trademark something, or so we know you have something that you want to stand out. We want to help you protect that. We need to stand out. And so Marcy left a big firm and started her own firm. And when you talk to her, and everything she says, she talks about, she uses the same phrases. We're zealous advocates for our clients. I'm a small business owner. If I were to go create some sort of marketing proprietary technology today, I would need Marcy, right, to help me to lock in this so no one can steal it. Hearing those words from Marcy, we're zealous advocates for our clients. We want to work, we want to partner with our clients. Sold. I am passionate about my baby that I've created. I want someone to help me protect it. So Marcy in Atlanta, she's in the entertainment capital of the South, and she works in the entertainment law. So she understands her clientele, and she says she has the phrases that makes her stand out, her online presence. I added her into the LinkedIn portion because they are so active on their social media. They get many referrals through their LinkedIn page. And so for Marcy, she understands who she is, what sets her apart, and her clientele. And she has lined all of those up beautifully. Compared to her competitors, she stands out. Everything about Marcy's online presence is all on brand, it's all uniform, and it's all saying the same consistent message. And Marcy absolutely kills it. So she's a great example in the world of how to use your online brand. So I want to leave you with a few things. I think we're getting close to time. So number one, I hope you realize that you are a brand. I think you heard it from who I do marketing, who cares? But you heard it from a lawyer, right? That's so important. What makes you different? Is it your personality? Is it something you are extremely gifted in this area? You understand this differently than others. You can communicate this differently. What is it? You are a brand. And then these 2 things, I'd love for you to remember these or meditate and think on these. What is a unique passion or skill set you possess as a lawyer? So if you're sitting here, what is my brand? Answer these questions, and this might help you start to tunnel in. So what is something, a skill set you have? And then what is your unique value proposition? Travis comes to me, what is my value proposition? Okay, I'm going to invest money in her and her business. What am I going to get back from it? So in that initial exchange, my value proposition, he had to say and think, okay, my money is going to be worth that investment. If I'm coming to you for you to solve my legal problems, or I'm going to invest in you and hire you, what is your value proposition? Is my money that I've worked hard for, I'm going to get that back by hiring you or by working with you. So if you're not sure, if you're sitting here today and you're not sure, answer these 2 questions, and I think that will help you narrow in to find what is that focus. So we'd love to answer any questions you have. This is my email address. If I can be of any help to any of you, like I said, I work with lawyers across the country, work with about 30 different firms in all practice areas across the country. So if anything, if I can connect you, I have a big network of lawyers. If you're asking, if you're wondering if I know a lawyer in this practice area, I'd love to connect you. I do this all the time, of connecting people to other lawyers. Hey, somebody in law school wants to pick your brain. I'd love to do that. So let us know if you have any questions, and then anything there I can do to help you. Please don't hesitate.
I'm interested in what you have to offer. I'm curious, what data or examples do you have to show your prospective clients the value that your services have created for your past clients?
So when we do a pitch for a client, we go in with case studies. Here's what we've done for a client, and so we offer exclusivity in terms of we will only work with one lawyer in one practice area and one geographic area. So I have Travis. I would not take on another criminal defense lawyer in Tuscaloosa. It wouldn't make sense, right? I'm competing them against one another. So what often we do is when we go in, we show them that data of, here's a case study. We started working with this lawyer. This is where their online presence was. This is their Google ranking. And we start getting into the metrics, the analytics of SEO. We show that and go from there.
Do you have any?
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Do you have any examples that you can pull from the top of your head?
Of where we've taken a client from.
Yeah, right.
I do. It would be difficult to explain. I just met with a client yesterday in Oxford. Anybody familiar with Oxford, Anniston, Alabama? That's where I'm from. I met with a client yesterday, and we just did their 1-year review. And I showed them, are you familiar with like Google Search Console? So I showed them, this is where you were, their impression shares versus now. So I'd love to show, I have that, I'd love to show you something like that.
Nice.
It would be boring, I could get into all of their impression share now, but I'll show you. Yep. Anybody else?
Just, so a lot of us, if we go and work for like a firm or a public agency, is there value outside of just having a social media presence of, having your own website or something like that to kind of build your brand?
I'm going to answer and then I'm going to let Travis answer, because our answers might be different. As someone in marketing, I would say absolutely. If they will let you, do it. If they will let you have AshleyRobinson.com, do it. What's it going to hurt? I do believe that's going to be, there are some firms who may not let you, or they may want you to mention where you practice. But if you have any desire to possibly open up your own firm down the road, do it. Because the way Google works is it's an algorithm, right? And the more authority and trust you work and you have with Google, the higher you're going to rank over time. And it's a long play with Google. I'm not going to get Travis today and we're going to start doing organic marketing and is going to rank top 10 by tomorrow, unless he's willing to invest a lot of money in paid. So if you can do that, if you have any desire to have your own firm, I would say yes.
So if you're in the public sphere, right, if you work for the government, they're going to freak out. They're going to lose their mind probably, show you the door. If you work for a firm where you have a boss, you definitely need to clear it through them. If you have a partner, you need to clear it through them, because normally your partners are your origination points for business. And if you can originate business from your own website, I'm sure, I don't know whether or not they would care. I've never worked at a firm large enough that they wouldn't welcome money in the door. But also, like, your firm has a brand too, right? So you want to make sure that the clients that are coming in are on brand with the firm that you're at. They, like, one of the best criminal defense lawyers in the state, Richard Jaffee, does not take every case that comes in his door, right? He doesn't deal with robberies. He's not going to deal with a murder case. He just doesn't want to. That's not his firm's brand. He deals with that real white collar stuff traditionally and dabbles here and there and whatever else crosses his mind. But so if you're outside originating your own cases, he'll probably get mad at you if something comes in the door that isn't what he wants his firm to deal with. Right? That's the joy and pain of having somebody else pay your bills. But definitely, if you have an interest in a subject matter, right, that is related to what you do for a living, then definitely kind of gathering public trust in that regard is probably not a bad thing. There's plenty of lawyers that have TikTok accounts that have bosses, and as long as they keep it real confidential and keep it real kind of on board, they'll probably get talking to at some point and ask them what they're doing. But at the same time, I'm still going to watch it while waiting in the next slide. Yeah. I don't know. I would personally, I probably enjoy the idea of having a personal website that was at all related to what I did professionally if I can be kind of tracked through it, right? So yeah, if you're into, you know, if you're in video games or something, have a video game website that just doesn't have your name and stuff on it, if you want on there, but, you know, maybe you want to rewatch Friends for the 1000th time and take it, have a website on it, I don't care. But if it's related to what you do professionally, then I trip very well. Unless you're jettisoning yourself.
Yeah, it is, yeah, I agree. I think it's telling of they're probably on their way out. You know, they're thinking about starting their own firm, and you suddenly have your own firm. Maybe you are.
And one of the things that's going to concern them is how many clients of theirs you take with you.
Were you close to time? Yeah, okay.
I just briefly say from a career services standpoint, because I deal with a lot of alumni and laterals and people, and I cannot tell you the number of calls I get a week from employers saying, hey, do you have anybody who might be looking to move in? And, you know, we usually post everything kind of publicly, but sometimes I have someone looking in a very niche market, and we do talk about that. Headhunters, all the time, will be trying to poach you from wherever you are. So that whole part of having a niche, having a presence, having a LinkedIn so that they can find you is really important, because you never know who's going to email you and how they're going to get your information or who's going to refer you. I refer former students cases all the time because we get random stuff here at the law school. Hey, I heard somebody who's successful. We don't do that, but you know that this person does that in your city. And as I was saying about Facebook, we actually have an Alabama Law alumni group. I think there's been like 15 posts this week. Hey, I need somebody who does this, I need somebody who does that. And it's your classmates referring you to cases. So just keep all that stuff in mind. Thank you all so much for coming. Please stay